Well, let's see how this goes, eh? Monday morning live. See how many fresh people we've got in from the weekend, eh? Morning, Luke, how you doing? Hope everyone's fresh today. I bet there's a lot of sore heads off the weekend, off the stopping up to watch the boxing. Because there was quite a few watching the boxing Saturday night, and I know what happens on a Saturday night session watching the boxing. So I'm live on YouTube and TikTok at the minute, because I normally do my lives primarily on TikTok, but I know a lot of my subscribers from YouTube don't watch TikTok, so I thought, well, I didn't actually think, one of my subscribers on YouTube said, why don't you go live on both at the same time with two phones? I might try and put these a bit closer together actually. Because when I'm looking at one, the other one, there we go, that's better. Because when I'm looking at my YouTube one, my TikTok one, it looks like I'm looking the other way, so get them right next to each other. There we go, people. Aye, so a lot of people will be rough the day off watching the boxing at the weekend, eh? And what an upset that was, eh? Gordon, good morning. All the way from Miami, 2:40 in the morning. What are you doing up that early, Gordon? Are you partying, or do you live out there in Miami, or is that you just going to bed at that time? Right, there we go. I was just looking on my YouTube there, thinking there wasn't anybody on the live chat, but Maureen, good morning, Maureen. Gillian Beckett, good morning. Gordon's from London and he's now living in Miami. Wow, what a difference there. What's it like over in Miami then? But I'll get a bit, what I'll start doing is talking a little bit, obviously, about the prisons. I had a quick look this morning to see what else has been going on over the weekend and last week. And I've just done a video yesterday, which I'm going to upload tonight on my YouTube channel first, and it is, the title of it is the best UK prison channel, because a lot of me subscribers and viewers have been messaging and putting in the comments saying that this is the best UK prison channel for information, because I'm doing lives every day talking about what's happening in the prison news, and the numbers speak for themselves. The amount of subscribers I've got across both channels, I've got in total around about 130,000 subscribers and followers on these two channels. But what I'll also say is 70% of my viewers on YouTube are still not subscribed to my channel, so you can imagine what the subscriber count would be if everyone did subscribe. So on my YouTube here, we've got Craig. Good morning, Craig. Cheryl. Ian Engelbreit, if that's how you pronounce it. Engelbreit. Helen Winder. Gillian Beckett, good morning. So Craig Mawson says, congratulations on getting off your IPP. Thank you very much. So yes, I'm on both. I'm on YouTube and TikTok. But my YouTube is obviously where I put my longer videos. But more so, I've been putting a lot of daily videos up on TikTok, but it's just more or less like shorts cut from the other videos. And I am doing just videos by themselves, but I have noticed as well, TikTok is massive for the views and the followers. And it's actually quite good for revenue. It's not as good as YouTube, but if you hit a certain amount of views, which me views are getting massive now on TikTok. Some of the videos is getting 100,000 views. So it's a good little extra stream of revenue along with, because I'm obviously at work at the minute, but this is me quiet time in the gym. From 7:30 till about 9 o'clock, it's quite quiet. So I get time to try and get these done. That's why if you can hear the music in the background, that's what that's coming from. So nearly every day, Monday to Friday, I'll be on here doing lives. So Ian is all the way from Australia. Cheryl Bostock from Mansfield. So can't pronounce that name there on TikTok, but he's put, why are you in jail? This is just a green screen behind us on the, it's not on my YouTube channel, but on my TikTok I've got a green screen behind us because it does attract a lot more viewers when you've got this green screen on, because when people are flicking through who have never come across my channel before, you can see it looks as though I'm in a prison cell with the green screen. So the reason behind that, like I've mentioned, people stop on it and it does get me followers up because I realise it's a prison channel and a lot of people are interested in the prison stuff. A lot of people, majority of people who haven't been to prison are the ones that find it most interesting because they've never lived that life and they like to hear about my experiences and what's actually going on in the prisons. Benjamin, good morning. Paul Ross, James Rennox, good morning from Jim in Edinburgh. So my followers on this channel are all from all over the world, like I've just mentioned there. Australia, Miami, Wales, Scotland. My book has actually been sold worldwide as well. Behind the Bars Ruthless Fitness, that went worldwide. So Kuldip Singh, let us see if I can pronounce this. Kuldip Singh, man, must just be his nickname, but he says, do you fancy ice cream? I think what he means is, when you're in prison, do you fancy ice cream? You do actually, especially in the summer when you're in them pads the size of this behind us, roasting away in a pad when the windows don't even open, they've just got vents on and the vents and that, you do lie there dreaming about having an ice cream. That's why I've been out nearly 4 years now, and things like that, I still think about being in there and enjoy it that much more. Because when you're first out of prison, everything's brand new again. Everything's great for the first few weeks. It's like being reborn, just getting out. And I always remember them feelings. Me, everyone, the majority of people who get out forget about them. They go back to the old ways and they just take things for granted. Where me, every day I appreciate everything. I appreciate being out here, because until you've lost your freedom, you'll never know what it feels like getting out of prison, or someone who's been locked away in a mental institution or someone like that, or a hospital, and they get out. You appreciate everything so much more. But again, the feelings don't last long, only if you don't let it, or if you let it, sorry. If you get out and everything just becomes normal again, you just get set in your ways and you forget about it. Well, I don't do that. I appreciate everything so much more, and I always remember the bad times as well, because a lot of people don't talk about that. They just talk about, obviously they forget about it, but everyone who's been inside remember or did have a hard time at some point. You suffer with some sort of mental health whilst you're in there. So they're the ones that's the things you've got to remember. So James says, watch your channel a lot, it's top notch. Worked in prison, plumber for 5 years, most interesting job I've ever done. Saw the corruption firsthand. That's what a lot of people don't see, and a lot of people out here who's never been inside don't realise how corrupt it is inside of prison. So Benjamin says, I'm going to prison on the 11th of October. I'm on bail. Got to hand myself in Newport police station. Well, I don't know if you've been to prison or not before, Benjamin, but if you are going in, just go in there, keep your head down, get your time done, do something constructively, get into the gym, come out better both physically and mentally, and then it won't have just been a waste of time. Make that time count. Do something constructive, get out with a better mindset, and make sure you don't fuck up and go back. Des Dog, what's happening from Bristol? So Moore's TikTok says, how many times have you picked the soap up? I've not picked it up, but I have dropped it in front of someone accidentally on purpose before. Just kidding. Everyone sees that as a bit of banter, like people who haven't been to prison, they say, oh, have you dropped the soap? Everyone knows what that joke's all about, but it's not very often you hear of them sort of things in prison, but it does actually go on, but more so on the nonce wings, the bacon wings. That's where, as you can imagine, hundreds of nonces all housed together. You wouldn't want to think what them filthy beasts get up to when they fucking showers together. Ugh. Put you off your breakfast. Have you eaten your morning breakfast watching this? So Benjamin's saying it's his first time in prison and he's due in October. How long are you expecting? Like I say, go in, get your name down for the gym, and make sure you're at the gym every opportunity you can get. That's the best advice ever if you go into prison. Make sure you get to the gym, because you've got to get your name down. You can't just go whenever you want. There's a list. Sometimes you get opened up. There's 100 lads on the wing and there's only 10 spaces for the gym. So you can imagine what that's like. So make sure you get your name down for the gym, get there all the time, and come out a better person. So SR says, what happens if someone is put in prison for being a nonce and they are innocent? Well, the chances of them being innocent is very unlikely, because nonce crimes, rapes, are the hardest cases to prove. So if they have been found guilty and they are in prison for it, then the odds are they're not innocent. But if someone is innocent and they go in, they're going to get put on the nonce wings unless they opt out to go on a normal location and they know people and they are a bit of a person who's well known and they go in. Then they can have a word with the lads and explain what's happening. But if you're in there for that, you're on the nonce wings and you're going to be a target from the other inmates. So Mr. Tommy Gunn says, shout out Victor Castigator. So anyone who doesn't know or heard of the name Victor was, I think he was a Filipino who was over here. He was in prison for 2 murders and he was serving a massive sentence. I think it was something like 30-year tariff. And he went into prison. He was in the high security estates, and I think it was either Long Lawton, where he committed a murder in the workshop where he caved a nonce's head in, and for that he was sentenced to life without parole. But he was known as a prison hitman. He was someone that would take hits out on people in prison, sometimes just for the fun of it, because he was a nutcase. But he was well liked of everyone in prison, and everyone did fear him. Everyone hears about the Charles Bronsons in prison, but you never hear about the likes of Victor, who was the real Bronson in prison. Bronson's more got of a name through the media and the films and everything, but Victor is well known and respected, or he was. I think he's dead now, he's deceased. But he was well known and respected of all the heads inside the high security estates. And like I've mentioned, if people wanted things done inside a prison, they would go and see Victor and pay him, and he would take hits out people. So James Rennock says he is gone now. He is, Victor, as I was remembering there, I think he had a heart attack, I believe, whilst in prison. But there is, like, people don't realise it. When they hear of the likes of Charles Bronson, like Charles Bronson's never murdered anyone or seriously. He has hurt people in the prisons, obviously, years ago, but there is people in the prison system that makes Charles Bronson look like a baby, looks like an infant compared to these people. So Anthony Dickinson says Victor who? Victor Castigator. If you type him up on Google, he'll come up. Just type in Victor Castigator prison and it'll come up. Right. So talking about the other inmates in the prisons that people don't really hear of, there's a big fella in the blocks. He's been in probably about 20 years now in segregation units, not allowed back up on the wings because he is a big, dangerous, formidable character. He was from Brazil, and I need to remember his nickname. I can't remember his nickname. I think it was Rio. I can't exactly remember, but I will look it up and I will do another talk about it on another live. But when I was in Franklin prison, he was in the block and he'd already been in for 10 years for tipping a pan of hot oil over a screw's head. Had an altercation with the screw, and in the high security prisons you can cook your own food in there and you could get oil. So he had a pan of hot oil bubbling away and he went up behind a screw who he'd had an altercation with and tipped it over his head. And this screw was severely disfigured. Obviously he was out of work, but he ended up going on to commit suicide because he couldn't deal with what had happened to him. And he is down the block on a 10-man unlock, and he's, like I've mentioned, dangerous people like that. What can you do against someone like that who's prepared to do that sort of damage to a prison officer? So Paul Simmons, morning mate, if anyone hasn't, go and click on his channel on TikTok and YouTube. He's a ex-prisoner who I've interviewed. He's doing well. He's finished with his probation and everything. His name is Paul Addict Mentor, and as the name says, Addict Mentor, he's an ex-addict, and he does a lot of talks on here and he helps people who are in recovery. So if you need any help with recovery or any inspiration, go and look his channels up. He's got some brilliant content. Right, I'll just have a look at these comments on here. So, someone saying, how are disabled people treated in prison if their charges are sound? I've met quite a lot of disabled people in prison. They're treated just the same as any other normal con. Sometimes I was in Durham with a lad who was in a wheelchair. He had the bottom part, it was classed as the disabled part, and he had obviously bigger doorway, a shower in his pad, and the other lads would help him out if he needed to get up the stairs or go out onto the yard. They would wheel him out, or they would help him up the stairs and carry his wheelchair. And when he went up for visits, they would wheel him up to the visits. So they get treated with a lot of respect. Just because someone's got a disability or whatever in prison doesn't mean they're going to be any less thought of, unless they're in for a bacon offence, but obviously they wouldn't be on the normal wings. So there's a couple of people mentioned over the last couple of days saying, why are you still doing prison topics? Move away from it. Someone actually said it yesterday, I think it was on my YouTube channel. He says, you're off license, put all this prison stuff behind you and just forget about it. But obviously I'm off license. I'm not forgetting about me being inside, but I thought it was quite, if you haven't looked into my channel and seen what my channel is all about, it was quite a daft thing to put. I've been on here for over 2 years now. I've built up to over 130,000 subscribers. I'm educating people on prison. I'm making thousands a month now from YouTube and TikTok, which when I first started off, it wasn't about that. It was just about me book, which I wrote in prison, Behind the Bars, Ruthless Prison, Air Fitness. So if you've got someone who's wrote a book in prison, how do you promote that book? You talk about prisons, you talk about what you've done in prison to write the book. You have prison channels. So it was a bit of an ignorant comment. Obviously, this person's been watching for a while as well. And I thought, well, it's a bit ignorant and daft comment to say, why are you still doing prison topics? Some people, or everyone wants to hear about the prison stuff. They want to be educated on it. They want to know what's happening in prison. Plus, the IPPs that are still out here and the ones in prison, I'm giving a lot of information. So the channel is actually helping not just hundreds, thousands of people. The amount of feedback I get on here, private messages, people saying, you've stopped me from going to prison. The stories that you tell on here, and you give us inspiration. And I'm inspiring a lot of the IPPs to show them that it's not the end of the road. Even though you're on life license until you get it terminated, doesn't mean that your time's up, that's it, doom and gloom for the rest of your life. It's just the beginning of your journey once you get this IPP removed. So that's the reason why I'm still doing the prison topics, because first of all, it's paying a lot of bills for us, which I didn't intend it to at first. It was to promote my book. But now, the way the channel has went, it's doing really good. So I'll not be moving away from the prison anytime soon. Because as my top says, Ruthless Fitness, I've got a gym, that's where I'm at now. And my book that I wrote in prison was all about fitness training, how to get yourself in a better mindset, both physically and mentally. So when I was doing the fitness side of things, I was putting my routines on, my training, and just talking about how to work out in the gym and stuff. But it just wasn't getting the amount of views. So that's the reason why when I started putting prison in the title, the views were going crazy. So that's why I carried on, doing the prison side of it, because as I've just said, people love watching anything that involves prison. And the stories that I tell on here are interesting and nobody hears about them because they're not in the mainstream media. So I'm sort of like a journalist as well, a prison journalist, bringing you news from inside the prison, because the app that I've got on my phone tells us news updates about what's happening in the prisons every day. So I update people on here about the stories that don't get shown on your normal Sky News or BBC News. Go onto YouTube, go on my channel, and my channel will give you the news. Right, have a look at some of these comments. When I go, I'll try get your book from the library and train in the gym. So Benjamin, who's just been on before, saying he's expecting to go to prison. My book is actually in the majority of prisons up and down the country, because I got in touch with all the governors, not all of them, a few of the governors, more so up here in the northeast. They bought a load of books for the prisons to try and help the prisoners. And a lot of families have sent the books in for the family members. And the book is actually, it's on Amazon, Waterstones and WH Smith, all the major bookstores. It's actually on some of the bookstores in the USA as well, believe it or not. So some of the prisoners in the USA are actually reading and training from my book. So Devil Mike says, I think combining prison experience with how to recover from it could work. It actually does work. It's when you're talking about prison, especially when you're talking about it to the younger lads who don't really open up much, when you speak about prison stuff and tell them how to turn their lives around with training and getting themselves in a better mindset, both physically and mentally, because all the youngsters these days want to look good, they want to look better. So doing that boosts your overall confidence and stops you doing things that you would normally do if you were using drink and drugs and going out and doing daft things that you wouldn't normally do. So if you get in a better mindset, get yourself fit and see the benefits of being fit and healthy, then it stops you from wanting to drink and take drugs. So Maureen says, will you be doing any more boxing? I will be getting your book. So I'll not be doing any more boxing. I'll still do training, but I had a couple of fights last year. The first one was for a charity. It was a white collar boxing. I raised a couple of grand for a local suicide charity. And then the second one I'd done was an unlicensed one, because I wanted to have, I know the first one was a proper fight, a charity one, but I wanted to go and have an unlicensed one as well. So I had two, won two, and then not be having any more. I'm nearly 40 next year, so hang them gloves up. Leave that to the younger kids. My son's going into the amateurs this year, so I'll be focusing on him. So a lot of the stories that I cover on here, as well as actually the murders inside of prison, because you don't really hear much about them. There's been quite a few recently, and there's one that I'm going to cover this week and put it on my channels about a prisoner that was killed in Bristol, I believe it was. I'll have to look up it again. I've got everything wrote down. I've got the script there ready, and when I've done a bit of research into it, this prisoner killed his padmate with the TV aerial, wrapped it round his neck, and put him back in the bed, so the screws thought he was just lying there asleep whilst he was in the pad with him. And I hadn't even heard of this. Not a lot of people's heard about this one. Crazy story when you go into it, so I'm going to cover that and put it on my channel, because, like I've mentioned, over the past 10 years, the amount of murders that have happened in prison and no one even hears about them. You only think these sort of things happen in the USA, but yeah, absolutely mental. So David says, you look good and fit for your age. Thank you very much, mate. 10 years ago when I was 30, I was a lot. I'm 18, just over 18 stone now, but I'm fit and healthy. When I was 19 stone then, my face was bloated. Obviously, I was drinking a lot, and I looked older then than what I do now. So, Pom Pom says, good morning, hope you're okay considering where you are. This is on my TikTok one, because I'm going live across both the other ones that are just joining. I'm on YouTube and TikTok. But on my TikTok one, I've got a green screen on where it looks as though I'm in prison. This is just a green screen to catch people's eyes. But thank you for considering it. Fiona must have just joined and she says, how are you live in prison? I'm actually not in prison. This is just a green screen. But it's just to catch people's attention on TikTok when they're flying through, because on TikTok at the minute there's 240 viewers, whereas YouTube there's only 68 viewers. And this is the reason why I was doing most of my lives on TikTok, because you get more viewers and you get more likes. I've got 6,500 likes on TikTok and only 21 on YouTube. I know YouTube you can only like it the once, but TikTok you can keep pressing the buttons and send loads of likes, which gets the algorithm up and it boosts my channel. But if you're all watching and you are enjoying this right now, click that like button, people. Get the likes up. It just helps the channel more, helps to get more notice, and the algorithm picks it up and shows it to more people, which is the aim of it. Get more people watching, get them educated on prison. So Nikki says, I've just finished a 10 there. People dying every day over spice and shit. So this is another thing I've covered on my channel about all the deaths in prison of the spice epidemic. More so in HMP Park, there was 6 inmates died. Or what was more than that actually. I think it was about 10 inmates died over the space of a few months of taking spice, but they're actually lacing the spice. I think it's with, what was it? So Nikki might educate us a bit more on this at the minute, but the spice in prison, they're actually lacing it with other things. The spice by itself is dangerous enough and can actually kill you, but they're actually lacing the spice with fentanyl. So they're putting that shite in the spice and it's making people go over and die inside of prison. The stuff is actual poison. And when you see the state of some of the lads inside, when they're taking this spice, They're buckled over on the beds, look like zombies, can't move, but they're just lying there with a grin on the face, enjoying it. They come out of it and they fucking love it. What sort of existence is that when you're loving being in that state? Have you ever seen on YouTube, I think it's on TikTok as well, in Kensington, in the USA, a place called Kensington, I think it's in Philadelphia, somewhere like that, where the whole street, there's an epidemic over there where they're taking that shite, fentanyl and spice, and they just buckled over they're actually bent right over, touching the floor like zombies, and they can't move. But that's what they're doing in the prisons over here. That's the state they're looking in. So in prison as well, Benjamin's saying there, they spray the letters with it. That's why you can't get post direct anymore. It's always photocopied in prison, because they were spraying the letters with the spice, and they were smoking a tiny little corner of a bit of paper, and that was enough to buckle them. A sheet of A4 paper was actually going for £1,000 when I was in Home House. £1,000 for an A4 sheet of paper. But a lot of the time, some of that stuff that they were spraying on, it was brake cleaner and all sorts. And like I say, it's absolute fucking poison. So someone's saying, can't the prisons control the drug issues? They can control it to a certain degree, where, like I mentioned in HMP Home House, the security had the jail on lock, where there was hardly any drugs in the prison. There was no mail coming in. There was nothing getting brought in on the visits because they were that on top. But which other way can they get it in if it's not through the mail on the visits? The only other way is through the staff. So a lot of the staff was obviously bringing the drugs in, or still are. And that's how you get the stuff in. But it's not just the staff, as in the screws that work on the wings. Up in, if you have a look in the Google this one, I think it was up in Northumberland, the kitchen worker, some woman was actually having an affair with one of the lads who was working in the kitchens, one of the prisoners, and she was bringing in shitloads of drugs through the prison, through the kitchens, passing it on to the inmate, and he was taking them back to the wing. But she did actually get caught for that. So like I say, if you Google it, it'll tell you. And she ended up in prison herself. So it doesn't matter what they do, even if they're blocked, even if there was no visits, there was no mail, the drugs still get in. Look at the prisons over in America, the maximum securities, they still manage over there. If there's a will, there's a way. You can't get more intelligent than a criminal locked up in a prison cell. Come up with some intelligent stuff, some of the things that prisoners create inside of jail. The lads were making lighters out of little travel kettles inside a prison. They were taking the leaves out, pulling the leaves out of the kettle, and they would use it as a lighter by sparking the leaves off each other, making sparks, lighting a bit of bog roll, bit of toilet roll, and using that as a lighter. So Sanj says, good afternoon. So if it's afternoon there, whereabouts you are, pal? He says, I love your views on channel itself. Keep up the good work, mate. And yeah, that spice shit is crazy. I've just done a 7.5 sentence, longest out of 5. Not proud, bless. So whereabouts are you at, Sanji? If it's afternoon where you are, you must be over in Asia somewhere. Maybe he's in Thailand. So Tony says, why do the sellers lace it? Surely they don't want you to die. That's actually how the prisoners want it. They want the stuff laced. They want the strongest stuff you can get. And I did speak with a lad once who was in the pad next door to us, who used to take it as much as he'd get his hands on it. He would take it every day to be in that state. He wouldn't even come out of his pad because he'd be buckled on the bed off the spice. So I said to him, I go, what entertainment do you get out of that? Why do you like it so much? And he says, when he's on it for a couple of weeks, it feels like, them 2 weeks felt like an hour. He says you're not in prison when you're on it. So obviously the lads that are taking it cannot cope with prison, or they just want to be out of it. And for them, when they're on it, it feels like they're not in prison, but they're not anywhere. They're just monged out on their bed look like they're disabled, but that's what they want. And when I was in Home House, there was a lad actually keeled over, him and his padmate, and one of them died. They got took to hospital, the pair of them. One of them died, and everyone on the wing, you would think they'd all be saying, keep away from that stuff, it's too dangerous, but they go around and they call it power. And they're saying they want the power. As the stronger it is, if someone goes over off it, the prisoners want it more. Believe it or not, someone dies of it, the prisoners are buzzing because it's that strong. They want more of it. Mental. Putting your life at risk just to have a little bit of a day where you're not in prison. I'd rather keep myself straight-headed and just get on with it and get out in a better mindset, because that stuff fucking frazzles your brain. You'll be coming out monged. You'll be coming out with half your fucking brain cells dead. Right, just have a look at some of these comments. So Ms. says, will the prison crowding ever be under control? They will get it under control eventually, because this did happen under Labour a long time ago. I can't remember exactly, but this overcrowding crisis did happen previously. A lot of the inmates back then were having their sentences, the ones that were doing 2/3 actually had the sentences halved. So if you were doing a 9 stretch, you had to do 6, but they were halving it, so you'd done 4.5 instead of a 6. So you've done half of it instead of 2/3. But not anytime soon. The prison overcrowding will not get any better. At the moment, it'll only get worse because of the type of people that they're releasing. They're releasing the ones that are in and out constantly. The ones that are what you would call, what was the name? So the ones that are in and out constantly, that are just loving the prison, the ones that are just in for, say, like shoplifting, burglaries, robberies, things like that, they're letting all these type of offenders out. Prolific offenders, the ones that are in and out, so they get released, they're back in within a week. Even if you release them at the end of the normal sentence, they have like however long on license. The license conditions when you're getting released early now are a bit more strict, and they're for longer. So if you've got more strict license conditions and it's longer, what do you think's going to happen? More people are going to get breached than what you would do previously. So if they're releasing thousands of prisoners early with bigger licenses and bigger license conditions, thousands more are going to be getting recalled than what they would have been. So that is not solving the issue, it's actually making it worse. Believe it or not, that's what they're trying to do, is making the overcrowding worse. Right. So someone was saying, I was wondering how they already been overcrowded ages ago, then they already had prisoners sharing single cells. Well, a lot of the prisons are not fit for purpose either, so there has been a couple of prisons closed and they haven't built any replacement ones yet, but that is the only way they'll solve the problem, is if they build. I mean, the amount of free land there is in the UK, spare land going, build some massive prisons. I know they did do, I forget what the name, but there was another prison that holds about 2,000 inmates. That it was a Cat C that they opened. It was classed as a super prison, meant to be for rehabilitation, and that's what they need to do. They need to build more prisons, more for rehabilitating prisoners, and get rid of all the old Victorian remand jails, because they're absolute not fit for purpose, absolute shitholes, and it's just not helping anybody at all by putting people in shitholes like that, and it's just making the situation worse. So if you go on to build bigger prisons, house more people, then obviously it's going to ease the overcrowding. The population's increasing all the time, so if the population out here in the community is increasing, it's obvious that the prison population is going to increase. So what do? You need to build more prisons for more spaces. How do they... So someone's saying, how do they have to build? Why don't they recondition? Because some of the prisons, like Durham, Wandsworth, all the local prisons, the old Victorian prisons that were built in the 1800s, some of them, was it 1900s in the early, I think some of them were around about 1800s. So old Victorian prisons that are not fit for purpose, how do you recondition them? You could maybe use the same site, knock the prison down and just build a fresh prison. That is the only way to solve that issue. So like I mentioned, the ones that are just joining now as well, I'll be doing lives every morning, Monday to Friday from 7:30 onwards. But actually, I was just thinking there, because I'm away with my wife on holiday, our first free holiday, because I'm off my IPP life license. It's just been terminated just under 2 weeks ago. Sorry, Gary's just put on there. Cheers, Gary. HMP Durham was built in 1819. 200 years ago that prison was built. So that's why it's not fit for purpose. We're getting back to doing the lives on the mornings. I'm going away to Portugal with my wife on Thursday. So I'll not be on Thursday morning, but Friday morning I'll do a live on my balcony in the sun. Freedom, living my best life, me freedom, no license. So I'll be doing that Friday morning. People looking forward to that. Because anyone that knows who's on IPP license, or anyone that's on a license anyways, and you can't leave the country, you'll know exactly what it's like having that hanging over you. You can't leave the country. You can't go on holiday without getting permission, but you never get permission from them. So that is what you've got to put up with when you're on license. And the IPP license, the lads that have been out here for license for 10 years, you can't go on holiday at all. So the life license was, well, it's getting changed on the 1st of November for the IPPs, but it's been a life sentence, 99-year sentence, can't leave the country. But like I mentioned, it's getting dropped down, these license conditions, but some people have been out here for 10, 11, 12 years on license, never been allowed to leave the country because of what probation do. But that's another story for another day. So Assange says IPP license is 10 years, ain't it? It is, well, it's life license, but you can apply to have it removed after 10 years. But as of the 1st of November, the license is being dropped to 3 years before you can apply to have it removed. But after 5 years out in the community, the IPP is getting terminated. So there's thousands getting terminated on the 1st of November who have been out of prison for nearly 10 years. Even the ones that have been out 5 years, the license is getting terminated. So M says, where you from? I'm from County Durham, up near Newcastle. So Liam says, yeah, Berwyn was good when it first opened. Berwyn was the super prison down in Wales. A good long-termer and lifer wings. But they tried padding us all up and that. And it was flooded with... I can't pronounce that. So, HMP Berwyn down in Wales. That's... I believe it holds around about 2,000. That was a new prison. And again, they run all right at first, but the way that they get ran, the prisons just turn to shit like everything else, and they get out of control. So HMP Park down in Wales as well, which has got a massive problem at the minute. There's been in the dozens now, I think, who's died from the spice epidemic in there. But I'm going to wrap this one up now. People have been on for 45 minutes. I'll give it a few more minutes, see if anyone's got any more questions. I normally stay on for about 45 minutes to an hour, but I'm quite busy this morning. There's a few people coming in the gym now, so I'm going to get me pre-workout in, get me session done for this morning. So Nick says, when I was in HMP Mount, there was an IP prisoner who cut his own ears off just to get out the hospital. Just to get out and have some morphine just to get out of his head. And this is the sad, sorry situation, what's happening with the IPPs in prison. There was a lad just killed himself in Garth prison, I think it was last year or the year before. IPP kept getting knocked back. His mental health had deteriorated that much. He killed himself. He's inscribed into his stomach with a razor blade, IPP, free, then hung himself. And there was a massive inquest into that because when they were doing his post-mortem at the morgue, and the one that does the post-mortem couldn't believe what he's seen when he's seen IPP free inscribed onto his stomach. But there's been over 90 IPP prisoners killed themselves on this sentence, because they couldn't see no light at the end of the tunnel and they kept getting rejected. And there's over, I don't know the exact figures for the ones out here, but it's over 100 in total with the ones out here in the community who have also committed suicide, who didn't want to go back to prison in fear of recall, killed themselves just so they didn't have to go back to prison on this sentence that was deemed inhumane and being abolished in 2012. So Nick says, Rick, you're the man. Thanks for keeping us updated. I love watching your YouTube. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Like I say, all you subscribers and viewers, you're the ones that make it worthwhile because you're the ones that are watching me content, giving us feedback. But I'm uploading a video tonight. If anyone didn't see the bottom, the first bit of this video, or this live rather, I'm uploading a video tonight and it's titled The Best UK Prison Channel, because... not blow me on trumpet, but it is just to get headlines and get more people watching it. But it is all the feedback that I've getting and all the views on the subscriber counts. So I've titled the video The Best UK Prison Channel and give me reasons why. So a bit of clickbait as well, because it'll get people, when people look for prison topics or prison channels, they type it in YouTube, Best UK Prison Channels. So my video will pop up for people who haven't seen it. And like I've mentioned, it's been voted for by the viewers of their feedback about my channel and why they're enjoying it. And that it gives information that other channels don't give. So for that reason, it's the best UK prison channel for information. But I'm going to leave that one there, everyone, because I'm going to go training out. So enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe and enjoy your week.